Sakaguchi's side project, sliding into the 9th slot, the original successor to Final Fantasy VIII was pushed to the PlayStation 2, which launched 3 months before 9 in Japan. Eager to take full advantage of improved technology, Square spent $32 million on its next project, assembling the talents of over 100 writers, coders, and artists. Most of the earlier fantasies focused on a European style of architecture and topography, with 7 and 8 weaving in elements of modern technology and Japanese steampunk. When growing its new world, Square sought influence from the islands of Southeast Asia, specifically near the regions of Thailand and the South Pacific. Water would play a dominant role in the setting and story of Spira, a sun-drenched paradise with beauty gamers had never experienced. Final Fantasy X was released in Japan on July 19, 2001. It washed up on our shores just in time for Christmas. It was directed by Motomu Toriyama, who had worked as an event planner on 7 and 8. Katase and Sakaguchi supervised via producer roles. Tetsuya Nomura returned to design the characters, and Nobuo Uematsu composed his 10th series score, but received additional assistance for the first time. The story began and ended in Zanarkand, a tropic metropolis unaware of its imminent destruction. Titus, a professional blitzball athlete, was barely saved from the massacre by his mentor, Auron. The two warped to the world of Spira, where Titus learned the city he called home had been destroyed 1,000 years earlier. His quest for answers led him to discover an ancient pilgrimage that would shake the ground of his very existence. This fish-out-of-water tale was unconventional for the franchise. As an outsider, Titus learned everything that was known about Spira directly, without any need for creative exposition. The story also stood out by establishing a clear geographic endpoint fairly early on in the narrative, unfolding its secrets as you trekked along the path toward its unavoidable conclusion. This prophetic journey's aim was to guide and protect the summoner Yuna, a caller of sacred spirits now called Aeons, whose power came from human souls called Faith. Yuna's multiple guardians included Waka, a beach-bound blitzball captain, Kimari, a Ronso outcast of few words, Lulu, an unforgiving black mage, and Riku, a spunky teenage thief who was Titus's first contact with Spira. The in-game character models were pleasantly detailed, with facial expressions their predecessors only dreamed of. But their colorful attitudes were defined by another franchise breakthrough:
Quiet!
Voice acting.
You have profaned and subverted a 1,000-year-old tradition. Do you realize what you've done?
Their dialogue was penned by Kazushige Nojima, who also wrote Final Fantasy VII and VIII. Not every line was spoken, as subtitles were used for minor non-playable characters, but the central heroes and villains were all cast with both English and Japanese voice actors, bringing their vocal cords to life. The inclusion created numerous development hiccups, such as characters' lips mouthing one language but speaking another.
Take your time.
But the addition was an ambitious and crucial step forward. A priest and maester named Seymour Guada went against the beliefs of his nation and his religion in a quest to save the world from suffering by killing everyone on the planet. To do this, he planned to possess a colossal whale monster named Sin that rose from the depths of the ocean and decimated entire villages. The role of all summoners was to build their strength and family of Aeons to eventually confront Sin in the ruins of Zanarkand. But Sin had and would return multiple times, leaving Titus and his newfound friends to search for a way to end the destructive cycle and abolish Sin once and for all. Cid appeared as Riku's father and the leader of the Al-Bhed, a roguish lower-class race. He gave the party access to the Fahrenheit, only there was no free flying in 10. For the first time, the overworld that had become a series standard vanished, leaving one continuous world map to pass through. While many missed running across open plains and rocketing their ships over oceans and mountains, the alternate perspective needed to disappear so developers could replace another last generation trick, pre-rendered backgrounds. Every outdoor environment in Final Fantasy X was rendered in real-time 3D, making the gorgeous surroundings stunningly tangible. You had no camera control, but the view would glide along with your movements in numerous directions. Fights were still random while traveling, but many boss encounters began with a flashy transition that blended the angle from the overworld into the brand new battle window. Fights in Final Fantasy X left active time and introduced the conditional turn-based battle. You now had all the time in the world to assign each move, and the order both sides would act in was listed in 8 vertical blocks on the right of the screen. Additionally, a tip ticker scrolled vital information about each target on the top, indicating weaknesses and possible strategies. This had been previously possible as an ability or spell, but never as a tool built into the display. Only 3 people filled the formation, and the other 4 waited in the wings. You could pull them in and out at will, and they gained experience based on their involvement in each bout. If you didn't use them, they didn't level. Overdrives were the new limit break. Like before, they became available when a meter reached its full capacity. Their attacks varied per character, and like Final Fantasy VIII, many required brief bits of timed controller inputs, making use of the PS2's dual analog sticks. The big difference in 10 was the ability to adjust the modes of each character's overdrives, specifically identifying the circumstances that caused the meter to fill. Yuna was the only mage who could use summon magic, and instead of her callings tearing up the battlefield and fading away, they joined the party in exchange for the other 2 members. By your side, they drew the enemy's attacks and acted on a list of available abilities. They had a health meter for the first time, and could fall in battle, only to be resummoned for another fight. 10's leveling system was a labyrinth of attribute plots called the Sphere Grid. As characters powered up, they gained ability points versus experience. When they achieved a new sphere level, they could use any of the glowing orbs they found in their travels by assigning